Yeah.
And special treat.
Oh.
Don't for sure put this in, but
Mhm.
Arlo was actually shipped back to me this week
Oh.
because I'm doing some repairs on them. So there we go. So we
Yeah.
got both Arlos in one shot together for the first time ever.
World exclusive.
Yeah, world
It's like
exclusive.
it's like Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yes, it is. It's like Spider-Man No Way Home. I love that.
Yeah, a milestone of talking to the best-selling author Adam Kreutinger.
Now it says number one.
Number one.
They change it number one, but
Wow.
it's kind of a ruse a little bit the way Amazon works. It's
Yeah.
number one bestseller in your category, and then you
Yeah.
like choose different categories that your book belongs in. So it's
Yeah.
not of like all of Amazon by any stretch of the imagination, which would be incredible. I'd be
Yeah.
sitting pretty if that was the case.
If you don't know, well, I think everyone knows Adam, at least that seems to watch my channel. Thought it would be nice to have a bit of a chat because I think our stuff sort of overlaps.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
just
right. Because did I
little
reach out to
smidge.
you first or did you reach out to me? I can't remember. I think I reached out to you.
It's really weird you did, but I was already like a fan.
Oh, really?
So
Yeah.
it's like I'd watch your stuff, and it was I think it was on Twitter. You just popped up. I was like, oh, that's something. So
Yeah.
and then we got into it with the book and stuff like that. It's always mind blowing, from just doing daft videos about Kermit, that that sort of then happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No,
you'll probably know that as well.
yeah, I've been on the other end before too, and yeah, no, I saw your video. It popped up, recommended in YouTube.
Yeah.
I watched it. I was like, this guy's really good. I was like, I'd love to work with him, and then the rest is history.
Wow.
So,
Out of curiosity, was it that one Kermit video?
I think it
The
was
voice one? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I think it was that one.
I think it was about 2020. And we'd ended up watching, it was me and my brother were watching the Muppets, the ABC series.
Mm.
And for whatever reason, I hadn't seen that when it came out. It sort of drifted away from the Muppets scene a bit.
Yeah.
And for all it had its flaws, I thought it was quite entertaining. I thought there were definitely some good parts of it. And then my brother looks it up and he says, oh, they fired Kermit. And I'm like, you what? And I'm like, what? How do I not know this? So then I looked it up, and you see the obviously all this stuff has happened, and I'm like, why is it not many people are talking about this? It just seemed odd. The entire channel was literally made out of this sort of desire to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I thought I want to let people know and see what people think, because it's a pretty important thing, I think. Kermit the Frog. So that video sat at about 30 views for a while, and for whatever reason, it
found its audience.
right.
Yeah,
it did.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's great. Yeah, because I remember when all that happened, it hit the news, at least in America, a lot bigger than I expected it to. With Steve Whitmire and whatnot being on different news stations and whatnot.
Mhm.
I was shocked that it got that much press at all, because typically nobody really knows who's underneath the puppets, really.
That's a point as well. I didn't for a while.
Yeah, not for a long time. Especially since Jim Henson passed away, because he used to be, when he went to talk shows, he'd be on the couch, right?
Yes,
with the
that's
puppet in
correct.
his lap.
Yeah.
And after he passed
Whitmire
away,
never was.
No, never was. It was always just the character. And then the same, I think, for pretty much all characters. And the other thing that was strange about him getting let go or fired or whatever the situation was, I don't want to get into the politics of that at all.
Yeah.
But I think it was kind of the first time that someone had been really let go like that in any way. Typically, anytime someone else takes on a character, they either pass away or can't perform it anymore for some sort of reason. So yeah, it was shocking, and I bet you it also sent a wave through a lot of the puppeteers as well, thinking, a lot of them probably thought they were not replaceable to some extent.
Yeah.
And then, you know what? You never know.
When you mentioned Steve Whitmire being on the news, the point is that here in the UK, there was none of that.
Oh, really?
I don't think that's
it
why
was
it's
shockingly big over here.
And there might have been a report, but I did not see or hear of a single report, which is why I didn't find out.
Yeah.
Until a bit later.
It all might be for naught at some point too, because of the way AI is going. Not saying that I agree with it at all.
Yeah.
But you might be able to say, hey, you might be able to say hey, ChatGPT, I want to see, the 2017 Muppet series, but with Jim Henson voicing Kermit. Yeah. And then it'll just be generated.
That is literally going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Guaranteed. Going off. Like, I did one video on AI about Kermit, and even from that, in the weeks since, we're now getting to the point where, like, I heard Squidward singing "My Way" by Frank Sinatra.
Oh gosh!
And it sounded
good,
spot on. Like,
oh my gosh,
it was crazy. I was showing everyone, like, look at this.
And I want to make very clear. I'm not saying that I want this. I just think it's unfortunately inevitable, probably.
Yeah.
So
it's the same whenever I talk about it. I think it's an odd thing because I always love, that authenticity and originality of characters and stuff, because I think it's important, and AI being thrown into the mix is a strange thing,
especially in puppetry.
I wanted to talk a bit about your stuff and what you've done, what you're doing.
Sure,
there is plenty too. So, I mean, for people who don't know, Adam's, you've been an art teacher for a while. I know, on top of everything else. I'm interested to know really how you've balanced it all, doing that and jumping around, doing the puppetry stuff and this and everything. Because, I struggle to push out content, and it's,
No, I totally understand. And, a lot of people, it's surprising, no matter how much I mention it on my podcast and in videos where it makes sense to mention it, that I have a full-time day job. So many people think that the YouTube here is my full-time job. And it's not that by any stretch of the imagination. Believe it or not, on YouTube, puppetry content gets very low CPMs, which is like how you get paid through YouTube. It's definitely kind of a loss, not a complete loss. It kind of helps me support the hobby a little bit, but by no means would I be able to support my family with it. Even if I was didn't have a family and just lived alone, it would be difficult based on, because a lot of these numbers are vanity. Subscribers mean less and less as time goes on. Because you look at right now, I think my channel's sitting at about 140,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And, and this is common. This isn't an unusual thing. But most videos that I put out don't get 140,000 views, so you're never hitting your full audience. They usually say about 10%. Or 10 to 20% is like average of reaching that audience. So to me, subscribers or followers, and this goes for any platform, essentially, it's my belief that, the followers, they're not followers. What it is, it's I think of it more as a bookmark. And someone saying, I got value from watching one of this guy's videos, and I don't want to forget that he exists. So subscribe.
Yeah.
Rather than being someone that actually engages with all the content. So that's really how I see it. So many people get caught up in the vanity metrics. Subscribers literally have nothing to do with your payout at all. It's completely views and retention based. And even more so than anything, what niche you're in. And again, like I said, entertainment and puppetry is probably one of the lowest niches.
Yeah. And that is baffling, by the way, that you with over 100K and all of that, the quality of the videos, at least, I'd have assumed, Adam will be fine living off that, but apparently not.
Oh gosh, no, not at all. Actually, I just realized I didn't really answer your question at all about kind of balancing both those things. To me,
it's okay.
The fact that I have that full-time job gives me the freedom to do whatever I want on my channel. I don't have to I have to make sure I crank out this video this week so I can pay my bills or whatever. I'm not over a barrel at all. And that same goes for the puppet building that I do whenever I do commissions. I never want to have to take a job because I need the money. And having a day job gives me that freedom. Now, depending on what kind of day job you have, it may have more or less freedom to it. Me, I'm an elementary school teacher, which is, no one really works harder than teachers. But, once you're a couple years into your teaching, you get a curriculum that you're doing and you have your lessons. And I definitely switch out lessons and find new stuff. But, that's why, a lot of teachers are family people, too. They can focus more on their family. They get the summer. They get a lot of time in the summer. Yeah. They don't work holidays at all. And that's kind of where I find I get most of my work done. So having a teaching job kind of helps me. Again, it's very hard work, a lot of work, and great work that I'm grateful for. but it has a little bit more flexibility than I would say most other jobs. But on top of that too, I also see my channel as an extension of my art teaching. So during the day, I work at an elementary school teaching kids pre-K to fifth grade art of all different mediums, including puppetry. And then when I get home, I teach my art to the world, which is my art of puppetry, And to me, it truly is an extension. And not only that, another in the education world where I'm a stickler for is that there's so many art teachers that don't really make their own art anymore. And to me, it's very important as a teacher to be that kind of role model to my students. And like, oh, he's not just our art teacher. He's actually making art and putting it into the world, and we can see it and see that it may or may not be having an impact of some sort on other people. And the kids are fascinated by that.
You've got it cracked. I'd say you've got a lovely formula of that, doing the puppetry. And I think what you mentioned about doing that outside of work as a hobby is important as well, because there was at one point I was doing the channel and it was when I didn't have a job, so I was trying to just pump out stuff, and I was doing it that much that I realized that I wasn't leaving any time to do any of life basically, apart from that. When that happens, it's like you lose the drive to do the videos, because I find that watching stuff and doing life then motivates you to do the content that you want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And actually, I'm working on another book that's kind of all about this topic, actually, too, about how to balance that and really how to make money from your art. Because obviously I do make some money from my art. And I think if I went harder into it, I could do more and maybe get to a point where that happened. But a thing for me, like I kind of just mentioned, I don't ever want to have to take a job that I'm not interested in, because I learned that lesson long ago when I was a full-time magician for like 10 years. I was doing magic shows all over Western New York. And I took jobs that I didn't want to do because I needed the money, and it made me kind of fall out of love with that interest. So I thought I could share some of those ideas. So I have my first book that I did. I don't have it with me because I just edit it right here. Okay, this is the Puppetry 101 book. That if you want to learn how to do television style puppetry like they do on Sesame Street and the Muppets, it's a perfect guide for that. And my next book, which we will put right here, I have the cover done already, which will hopefully be coming out before the end of this year, is going to be all about really how to authentically build an audience as an artist without sacrificing the integrity of your art, without selling out. Essentially, that's essentially what the topic is.
I think that's tailored towards me. I'll end up with that one as well. I think good story is always kind of rattled around in my brain, and I often make notes of just ridiculous things that happen and stuff like that. And I thought, I want to do it. I want to say an autobiography, but a kind of an accountant of all those events, so that in the future people can look and go, oh, that's what his life amounted to. Just something like that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I think you're doing that already in a way, because. Yeah, and here's the way I did it. The way I realized what I'm doing is my channel, like I don't think of each video as like a product, right? To me, the whole channel is the product, okay? So they all build off of each other. And in a way, all I'm really doing is documenting what I'm making, my art. So my tutorials, some of them I put a little bit more intention into as a teaching tool, but a lot of them I'm just kind of turning on my cameras, working, building my puppets. When the puppet is done, I'll take some nice photos of it. And then what I do is I film my bookends. So I do my intro and then my outro, like at the same time, and then just slice it, put it on either end, time lapse everything in the middle. And sometimes I'll do voiceover if it's something more intricate and I want people to really pull something out of it. Or I'll just maybe do a little storytelling of just like things that I've done, in puppetry or something that happened at a festival. But yeah, that's kind of my formula. I mean, I think there's a lot of ways someone could improve my videos, or they could be improved. However, but I think I'm a big believer in like 80% rule, because it takes 80% of the work is really easy. That last 20 of the real polishing takes 90% of the time. So I'd rather put it out 80% video every week than doing like a 100% video once a month or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's people that disagree with it, and that's fine, but that's the difference. My goal isn't to make a perfect video every time. Mine is documenting my art and making as much art as I can. So that's kind of my perspective on it.
I do agree with that, because if I'd went for the 100% thing, I don't think I would have released a single video to this day.
That's true. Yeah, done is better than perfect. Yeah.
Procrastination has been my biggest thing to get over, that putting off of things. And it's like, first time the Kermit video, the only reason I did it is because it was just rattling around.
Yeah. And procrastination to me isn't that bad. I consider myself a professional procrastinator.
I would say so too.
So because what I mean by that is like, I'll have 5 projects going on. Okay, I'll work on one, and then I'll be procrastinating it, and I'll work on this one. And then I'll procrastinate on that one, and I'll work on this one over here. So it's always kind of working, although I'm procrastinating on different projects at a time, which makes me productive 100% of the time.
I need to get to that level of procrastination then, because because my procrastination would usually just be doing the project, leaving it, and then kind of staring at it in the corner of the room. But no, it's I think naturally as you go on, it gets easier and stuff like that.
But the big thing for me is also having a routine and a system. So for me, when I first started out, I had one camera, and I'd put it there for this angle, pause, stop my working, switch it to this angle, keep going. But what I found is, if I only had, because I have a full-time job, maybe I only have an hour to work that day. I don't want to spend a half hour setting up my camera and everything else. So I was able to get a small dedicated spot here. I bolted my cameras to the wall. I got a couple extra ones, one there, and one there. And I can switch to different angles for different things. And I can switch to the down angle. And that way, if I only have an hour, I can work for a full hour and no time really messing around with setting things up. So, and again, I didn't start that way, but I was able to grow it and figure out shortcuts to make myself more productive, knowing that I have less time to be productive. So
I am envious because I'm just living at home, to be honest, and the setup is I can't yet have a dedicated studio, so it's just sort of thrown everything together and every single time, which is obviously I want to get to a point where I could have the stuff just there. I think that'd be great.
Sure, you can do that in your room, and there's nothing wrong with being at home. I'd be at home too if I could right now. I tell people, once you leave, you start paying, and you never stop paying. So, like, stay home as long as you can. Invest. That's the time to take these chances and invest in your art or whatever your art is, like what you're doing. And I think there is no shame. Anyone who shames people for being at home still, oh my gosh, especially in the times we're in now, kind of going into a recession. I'm not sure how it is on that side of the pond, but
quite similar.
Quite similar. Okay, yeah. But there is absolutely no shame in that. Just do it. And again, people are like, well, I don't have a good camera. I'm like, if you got a phone, it's good enough. That's all it takes. You'd be shocked how many videos lately I've been doing just on my phone. I do a lot of it on my phone now.
What I watched recently was, I just found this hilarious. I think the Last Puppeteers podcast with the guy who made the Ant Run Fleece.
Oh, Larry Guild.
Have I got this right? Yes.
Larry Guild, I think it is.
Larry Guild, yes, he said that in the thing. I found myself watching that last night, and I was in stitches at his sort of, how should I say, direct responses.
Yes.
When it just cuts off, he's like, "Who are you?" And you're like, "We are people from the internet or something." I thought it was great.
yes, that was quite an adventure. We tried really hard to get video, but it seemed like that would be way too hard because I don't know if we left that in there. I think he said he was trying to, even his own kids were trying to get Zoom set up for him so they could communicate with him, and they gave up. So like, okay, if his own family can't get him to do it, we're just gonna have to stick with the phone call and do the best we can. But oh gosh, we're so grateful for that interview. Because again, he's one of those people that doesn't even know the impact he's had in this community. He's just been making fabric. He's been making fabric for every industry you could probably imagine, and he just doesn't know that his name is known to a lot of hardcore puppetry people. So
yeah, and it isn't online much apart from like there's the one interview, and then, I just found it really interesting. But how do you sort of go around getting in touch with all of the puppeteers and Muppet people for the podcast? Because I find that really cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And one thing that makes it easier as you go, which is something a lot of podcasters say, is, the more guests you have, the easier they are to get, especially because it's kind of a community of puppeteers. And what really made it easiest for us in the beginning is that me and Cameron, we would go to the Eugene O'Neill Theater Conference, which is incredible. And we met a lot of amazing artists and puppeteers there. And that's where we met Jim Krupa, where he kind of coined the name for us, because he said he was going to do a book. And he wanted to do all of his horror stories of the industry things that he's done in puppetry. Not that he's done, but that he's seen. And he called it Puppeteers that he wanted to do. And then we asked him, like, hey, can we borrow that name for this podcast? And can you be our first guest? And he's like, sure. Yeah, you can workshop the name. If it works out good, then I'll use it. And if it doesn't, then you save me some trouble. So yeah, and then we started off doing mostly people that we knew from there, and then they have friends, and then other people see it, and then they ask to be on, or we reach out to other people and then show them past interviews. And yeah, it's just this rolling ball downhill that gets bigger and bigger because the snow piles on.
It's been really nice to watch them over the years, and trying to push myself. And I thought at one point, when everyone was going about the Kermit thing, I was like, why didn't I get in touch with Steve Whitmire or something? I'd love to do it at some point. So that's on one of me to-do lists, as is this. I'll sort of, try and work my way into that.
Is this your first podcast?
Sort of. Would you call it a podcast?
Maybe, yeah, I'd call it that.
I think probably quite, yeah. But something, right, that I want to ask is, I'm quite a sort of a Nintendo fan. There was a YouTuber a few years ago who happened to be a blue Muppet-like creature called Arlo. And then I might have seen some of this creature's stuff, and then a few years later I come across your stuff, and then there is the same puppet. But to add to that layer, you also have a mascot blue puppet who is called Arlo. So please explain.
Sure, absolutely. So earlier on, and for years I've been saying I'm going to do another one soon, but I haven't, and I want to do one soon, but it's probably not going to happen. I used to do what I call my eBay puppets. At least once a year, I'd make because a lot of times when I do prototyping, I'll have an extra head lying around or an extra, foam piece of this. And, I don't want to be wasteful of those materials. So I just put them together, make an original character, throw it on eBay. I'd always throw them on for 99 cents and just let people bid on them to whatever it went for. And that Monster Arlo was one of those puppets. And coincidentally, it was actually the one that went for the least amount of money ever, which is kind of funny because he ended up being the most successful puppet after that. Yeah. More successful than I'll probably ever be. But so what happened, I want to say that was 2014, but I could be wrong. It was probably around that time. Yeah, close to 10 years ago now. And
wow.
So I believe technically I made my Arlo first, my Arlo the monkey here.
Yeah.
I made mine first, and I would think I named mine first, but he definitely went public first before mine did. So if you just look it up from online, it'll look like he did.
That one was first.
Yeah, it was just a complete coincidence. I'm not sure where he got the name from, but I got the name from one of my very good friends. Had a son, and they decided to name him Arlo. And I was like, I've never heard of that name before. I thought it was interesting. And I always thought as a kid, I remember when I was a kid, I would watch Power Rangers. And when it started off, there was always a Billy, and my older brother's name was Billy. I'm like, oh, he's got a Power Ranger with a name, the same name. And then later on the season, there was an Adam. So I did get that too. But I'm like, this kid's never going to have an Arlo for something. And I was like, not to say that my show was going to ever become something, but I was like, yeah, I'll name it Arlo so that there's another Arlo in the world. And then what also happened that year is The Good Dinosaur came out from Pixar, And of course, that character's name was Arlo too. So all of a sudden, there's no Arlos to there's a bunch of Arlos. So, and special treat. I can't don't for sure put this in, but Arlo was actually shipped back to me this week.
Oh.
Because I'm doing some repairs on them and doing a
what
rebuild.
A strange coincidence.
Isn't that a coincidence? So now we've got, for the first time ever, both Arlos.
We need the two Arlos.
Let me see. I got to make sure I get the decent eye focus for this. Hold on.
Yeah.
So there we go. So we got both Arlos in one shot together for the first time ever.
World exclusive.
Yeah, world exclusive.
It's like Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yes, it is. It's like Spider-Man No Way Home. I love that. Yes, all in one spot all together. But the guy, I believe he's anonymous. The creator of that channel. And I just think that was so brilliant what he did, because there's so many puppeteers that try to make a channel, but I think that generally the problem is their interest is puppetry and they want to make a channel and they find a topic to do. Yes. But it doesn't always resonate.
Exactly.
But like this guy, without a doubt, could have done that as himself. And that's what makes it work, because it would have worked as himself. But doing it with him, because it's clearly something he's intensely passionate about and knows a ton about. But by doing it with a puppet is so brilliant too, because not only can he be anonymous if he wants to, but let's say in the future he could sell the channel and it doesn't, there's a cohesive at least look of the character, and if someone else can kind of match the voice, which happens in mainstream puppetry shows all the time, not to mention it's probably much easier to merchandise something like that than it is a meat puppet.
That's what struck us. It was the only example of it. You've got all these dudes sitting talking about gaming or whatever, and then there was this one which just says Arlo. I thought, well, that's a unique name, and it's every video. He just is the puppet. Nobody knows. At least I don't think he's appeared as himself.
Yeah, he's a great guy too. Very talented, great puppeteer. I think that's kind of understated, honestly, because that's the thing about puppetry, is that when it's done right, you don't notice it. And actually, unfortunately, a lot of times when it's wrong, people don't notice it. But once you notice it, you can't unsee it. So I call it the difference between a puppet and a character, And in my book, I talk about that, but I'll look down at my monitor here, so I'm not going to look at the camera for a second. But like a lot of people, when they do the eye focus is what makes a puppet seem alive, okay? But most people's instinct with a puppet is to do this. Hi, my name's Arlo. But every time you open the mouth, the eyes are looking up. So to me, this looks like a puppet and this looks like a character. So having that eye focus just makes a world of difference in the performance. And people sometimes they see a puppet show and they're like, this isn't a good puppet show, but they don't know why, right? But and generally, that's one of the reasons.
As featured in your Puppetry 101.
That's right.
I remember reading that, and then taking Kermit out into the forest. Basically, because I don't think I've released them yet, I might put a small clip or something featuring them. Could you sort of share some quick thoughts on what was good and bad about that quote-unquote performance?
Yeah, it was outside. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that old clip of like Frank and Jim outside testing, right? It's kind of got that kind of a feel to it. I can't remember. Were you in view? You were in view, weren't you?
I was sort of, the way I was doing it was standing up. To the side.
Filming yourself, kind of a thing.
It was. I had a mate who would set a camera up on the tripod, and I was stood up, but the Kermit was to the side. I think I came into view sometimes. But had the monitor, literally first attempt ever. But it was the way that all happened was I'd done the video, the Kermit replica one, which you had sponsored, and then a mate of mine texted the next day and said, "Oh, I saw that video with the Kermit." He was like, "Yeah, can I have a go?" I was like, well, what are you doing today? And I was like, well, let's just take the puppet and go into the woods. And so we just did that. There's a few dog walkers went past. I've just got the Kermit like suspended in the air.
I'm watching it right now.
He definitely was a bit wonky at points.
Yeah, well, and this is like one of your first times ever really doing puppetry like this, right?
First.
Yeah, I would say
the first with,
I'd say,
the monitor.
Yeah, I'd say for your first time, this is really good. I would just say, looking at this, the Kermit, I think you've mentioned this in the past too. The Kermit looks like a little bit big for your hand, perhaps. He looks a little baggy on his head, which can kind of make his eyes a little wonky. At moments, the arms seem like they don't quite know what to do. Like right now, at the point where I am, it looks like he's praying like this.
Definitely.
Whereas, like, generally, the thing I always tell people too is just people watch, right? And kind of see how people move. Like the instinct that people do is they always kind of have the hands up here when they first do a puppet. Okay. But again, look at people. People don't walk around like this. They have their arms to their side. Just keep it as natural and as flowy as you can. You were a little sideways at some points too. But again, this is all just stuff that has to become muscle memory. I think in some of the documentaries and books that I've read on Jim Henson and stuff, they said that the average puppeteer that they had would have to be like a background character and do it for like up to at least 7 years before they were proficient enough to really be able to do any lines and be that used to the monitor style puppetry, because it is just it's so not intuitive.
It's a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And one thing I believe this is true is that so for us, we get straight scan, and in the UK they generally do reverse scan, so it's like a mirror image for professional TV shoots out in the UK, and in America we get straight scan, so the exact feed that the audience sees. So I would say it's easier to do it the way that they do it in the UK, but the advantage, even though it's in reverse for us, is we get the exact feed that the audience sees, which seems like a small difference, but it's especially important for shows like Sesame Street, where they have words on the screen a lot, and you want everything to be like legible. And just things, little details like that.
But going off that, I suppose, to go into Muppety stuff, pretty stereotypical question, but what would be your favorite Muppet project out of everything?
Yeah, I'll just do a little bit of background on my experience with the Muppets. I was not familiar with the Muppets at all growing up, really. Other than Sesame Street. I watched Sesame Street when I was really little. I only Muppet movies I think I had seen as a kid were The Christmas Carol, of course, Treasure Island, and I think like that was it. I didn't know who Fozzie Bear was till I was in college. And I only knew who Miss Piggy and Kermit were because they were more relevant in pop culture, like on TV shows. Above the others. And would do like spots on other things. So I knew who they were. And I think at the time too, Kermit was still sometimes on Sesame Street, though I could be wrong about that. Or at least I was watching reruns. So I knew who those characters were. And the other thing to me, like I never saw them as puppets. I was a big dummy, I was fooled by the illusion. When I thought of a puppet, I thought of a toy. That's what I thought of. I did not think of these characters. They were just characters. In the same way, when I watch like a cartoon, I don't think about, the way that's drawn is really interesting. No, I just kind of watch SpongeBob or whoever, do their thing. I was totally fooled by the illusion. Yeah. And it wasn't.
That's what grabbed me in about the Muppets was that it was a distinction between them and other things like them. The fact that you'd have Kermit going to interviews and he was just there. Yeah. It was real.
Yeah, I never saw Kermit or any of those characters on Sesame Street as puppets. I bet you though, if I was, like in adulthood or even as a kid, saw, in another time when Jim Henson was on the couch with Kermit and stuff, it probably would have clicked for me there. That's probably why a lot of people of that generation probably immediately understood the puppetry, unlike I did. But just since I was only ever just a puppet, I was just completely fooled by it. So, your original question was?
It was just favorite Muppet thing.
Favorite Muppet thing.
So yeah.
Oh my gosh, I gotta say, and I'm sure people won't agree with me. One of my favorite things is probably the 2011 movie.
Snap.
I think it's really good. I think the music is really good in it. Not to say that the other ones don't have great music too. They have really good music in it. Very contemporary feeling, very musical theater feeling, which is something that I'm very in love with, musical theater. I just thought it was a lot of fun. A perfect kind of comeback movie for them. That's why I really liked it a lot. Definitely. It was very modern, but still also had a lot of nostalgia to it. For all those reasons, I really liked that a lot. And, obviously it was good enough to get them a second, but unfortunately not to continue much more past that. So, but
that's amazing, because I'd usually say to people the 2011 film is what really got me into the Muppets. And it was always a sort of almost I want to say shameful thing, but like people be like, oh, but what about the Muppet movie and the Christmas Carol? I'm like, I don't know, but this was the one that really like hooked me on the Muppets. And it's, even though it's not Jim Henson, that's the big sort of thing. But it really felt as though he was sort of watching over that one. I think, if you want to say, it just felt like a perfect tribute. And for people who say that it's not Jim Henson, like, it is. No, it's not him performing, but like his fingerprints are all over that. You couldn't watch one frame of that movie and not see Jim Henson's influence on that. That's how he was with everything. So he's technically in it as well. He's in
Is he?
He's in at least one photo in the background.
Oh, okay. I think I remember hearing about that too.
Yeah. I love the just recently watching the film again. Even the soundtrack to it is in the score. Not even necessarily the music is kind of stuck with us. I've used a bit of that in the videos before, and it felt like it took the Muppets seriously. It just perfectly encapsulated what they were, because most people remembered the Muppet Show, so you had that as the sort of basis of the once were, having them separated. I remember Steve Whitmire said, the Kermit and Fozzie wouldn't have fallen out and stuff, but I think that allowed for, that comeback. And then it feels really, the flow of it is like, by the end, it feels really important. I think maybe if you haven't even seen the Muppets before, by watching the film, you understand how important they are. And great film.
I think it's really good. It's really good. And I think it's probably the best attempt at making something, original. And I just say that as not like Treasure Island and Christmas Carol, like based on other things, that uses the legacy characters. So for example, a thought that I've had for a while, and I go back and forth on it, is that I kind of wonder if the Muppets should be, and this is part based on a discussion they've had with some other puppeteers who would like to remain nameless, but I agree with them, and so I don't mind sharing it. Is that I wonder if the Muppets should only be the character, the person who originally performed it. So if that person's gone, that character should be gone to an extent, okay? Not to say that they can never appear in any way, maybe in the background or maybe in a different way, but like I feel like, because look at that, like Kermit, Piggy, Fozzie, those are pieces of Jim Henson and Frank Oz. Everything else is kind of someone doing an impression. Now, the people they have doing it right now are very, very good, and I believe they tap into it. But they're so talented. What if they had their own character, like truly their own, and were able to develop it the way that Jim Henson and Frank Oz and the rest of the Muppeteers, Muppet performers, were able to do that? And the example these other puppeteers gave me was like, you think of a show, I don't know if they have it out there, like ER. If you're in America, you know the show ER. Do you know ER?
The hospital one.
Yeah, it's a hospital show, right?
Yeah.
It's been on for like forever.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's been a rotating cast because people kind of age out or they go into other, movies or TV shows. And then it's always a rotating cast. You look at it from 10 years ago, there's maybe not one cast member that's the same.
That's
and I think
point.
the Muppets could kind of work in that kind of way by just the performers having their own characters that they truly create and is an extension of them. And I think that could work really well. But I know that's really hard in a business because you have the IP. They got a garage full of Kermit backpacks. They can't get rid of Kermit, right? I know that's a gross example, but that's kind of how it works, though. You don't want to get rid of those big characters. But I feel like that's what the Muppets are, though. Those characters are an extension of those performers, the genius of those performers. And some of the best things that they've come out with, some of the biggest characters are newer characters. You look at like Pepe the Prawn, right? Like he's become really popular, and he's in a new character that's an invention of Bill Beretta, okay, and Kirk Thatcher. But I mean, that's a prime example.
I suppose it's what they went towards with Muppets Tonight, right? Because you had Clifford being the sort of most central character, and obviously that didn't work out for them. So I imagine that's probably where they've been, not knowing quite what to do since. But yeah, it's a fascinating debate. I wonder what people would think of that if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, what people would think about it. I mean, probably most people would hate the idea, and it just have to be something that's done. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, then not great, right? And that's the thing is, so many people with all types of movies and TV shows, the sequel, like, oh, I wish they never did that sequel. Like, oh, they should have just done the first Matrix. All the rest of them spoiled the rest of them. Like, that's not really the way it works. I don't believe that sequels can spoil past things. Right? If you don't like the sequel, just don't watch it anymore, right? It doesn't change the integrity of the first movie, even if you think it does, because they change like the midichlorian, right? Oh, that killed all the past Star Wars movies, makes it not important as much what the Force means. But like, stop whining. Just watch the ones you like and just pretend those don't exist. It doesn't, just because it ruins it for you, it doesn't have to ruin the entire franchise. So, well,
after the 2011 film Most Wanted came out, and at the very start of that, because you were talking about sequels and stuff, they just the end of the film, it isn't real, and it's all, they're just like, oh, that didn't happen, and that just reminded us. I remember thinking as a kid, like, oh, does that mean it's not real? Like all of that sort of, the emotion of the between the characters and all that. Then again, it's always sort of the case with Muppets, because they break the fourth wall and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, no, that's again, it's a big part of what they do. Their cameos and stuff. Like, I love all their cameos. Although that's a lot of the stuff that kind of ages the Muppets, because I remember when I finally watched the original Muppet movie, which wasn't until, again, an embarrassingly old age for me. Probably till I was like 19 or 20 that I watched it. I was watching, I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks like it could have been made yesterday. And then they showed a human character. I'm like, whoa, okay, because the puppets are timeless. They're absolutely timeless. Then you see people, it's like, whoa, this really was another time.
Totally, yeah.
You know? So that's another thing I would say too, is I just hope that they do more things with, not to say they shouldn't have cameos anymore, because I think that's essentially a huge part of what the Muppets are. But I would like to see them not being human-centered characters anymore, or way less, at least.
Yeah, so I think that's a take away from Mayhem. If we go into that a bit, obviously I did this big review on the Mayhem, and I was kind of 50-50 on it, because I loved how they expanded on the Muppet characters and stuff like that. And like say, the human characters, I think you mentioned they were comparable to Disney Channel actors, that kind of thing.
Well, technically they are Disney Channel actors, right?
Yeah, that's
everyone is, right? But it's a Disney property. But it was probably just a hair. I mean, I think they were I like those actors, but I just kind of lean back toward, I think the Muppets should be less human focused. Again, for example, I think the Muppets Most Wanted did a better job of that, because if there was any critique of the 2011 The Muppets, just like a hair too much of Gary, just like a hair too much Gary. Yeah. But then in the second one, like Ricky Gervais was the sidekick to the Muppet, rather than Muppets because like Walter was kind of the sidekick to Gary in a big way, whereas it was reversed in a big way for the second movie, which I think that made it, because the one critique I hear a lot of people in the puppetry world say is that Muppets 2011 was a better movie, but Muppets Most Wanted was a better Muppet movie.
I remember my dad at the time was all like, "Oh, it's the Muppets. Look, that you know the Muppets." And I'm like, I was immediately drawn to them, but I didn't understand what but I wanted to see the film. My dad was babbling on about all these old, what was it when Animal did the drumming contest and all this. I didn't have a clue what he was on about, but wanted to see the film. And I think the way it segues in from the Gary Walter thing, and then they meet Kermit the Frog. I think that worked really well for the film. If you didn't know the Muppets, but on the character of Kermit, I did another video, but I looked into the fact that when you type in Kermit's name on YouTube, the actual Kermit doesn't show up. It's those
the toy ones,
obscene party,
yeah,
things. Yes. I just wanted to sort of ask you your thoughts on that sort of thing, having kids and everything. What do you think of all that?
I think I actually almost did a video on that a couple of years ago, because you might be familiar with it. There's this channel that was called SML. And there's actually multiple channels of it. Probably had like over 20 million subscribers across like 3 or 4 channels, and it was using a lot of like Mario characters, as well as like a couple kind of original characters, but kind of relatively poorly. And totally obscene, disgusting, gross things, inappropriate. But it had a huge following, and a lot of kids liked it. I remember kids at my school would talk about it. I'm like, you really shouldn't be watching that, Yeah. And I put together a script. I have some clips from the show, but then YouTube got, I think, a little better at cracking down on that, and Nintendo stepped in too, and kind of shut them down. He still runs it now, but now he uses like original characters and changed the names. Yeah. But
you see a lot of that.
In my mind, it's less of a problem now, but my biggest problem with that is 2 things. It's everything that I hate about if there's things that I hate about puppetry is like the bad puppetry. And not to say that I'm like the arbiter and the judge on what's good and bad puppetry, but based on those techniques that I showed you before, like no one is even trying to do any good technique or grow as a performer in any of those things, right? It's just the thing that I hate is I have it in my book that I wrote too, that I hate puppetry as a gag. Like you think of a show like Avenue Q. What a beautiful, heartwarming show that is. Does it have some inappropriate things that you wouldn't show to kids? Absolutely. But it's not inappropriate to be inappropriate. It's inappropriate because it's raw. It's a reflection of real life, which is not what, those types of channels that we're talking about are trying to do, right? Generally, I hate swearing puppets because it's a gag and it gets old almost immediately. Maybe you'll laugh at first, but you're not going to be laughing at a swearing puppet for 2.5 hours, okay? Yeah. And that's where Avenue Q went right, because it's not that at all, even though it's often advertised that way. So
it's, what was it called? How Kermit the Frog Lost His Identity was the video. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned similar things about how, because if you plug in Kermit on YouTube, comes up with the Super Serial guy, he's called, and that is the main one. There are just hundreds of videos, and I was scrolling through and I was like, what? Each one of them had more millions than the actual Muppet videos. Yeah,
I just typed it in right now, and I'm seeing that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you seeing it?
Wow, man, 21 million views.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then one with the real Kermit below it, only 500,000 views. And then another fake Kermit, 34 million views. Yeah. Real Kermit, 1 million views. So yeah, it's a big difference.
So that boiled away, and I thought, is nobody else noticing this? So I'd done the video on that. But like you say, it was not only the fact that it was crude, so Kermit will be here going, oh, you've done this and fitting this and everything. It's just, the mouth flapping about. They're just throwing the puppet around the room. Camera shit. There's nothing kind of credible about it where you can go, oh, that's that's good. And delved into the comments, you can immediately tell what the audience is, which is very young kids. And that is, it's concerning. I think.
No, it definitely is. And I think that's why, just to kind of get into the topic of like replicas, because one thing is, and I don't come out with knives when people do replicas or anything, though a lot of puppeteers do. And the reason why I empathize with it a little bit is because it's where I got started, and it's where a lot of people get started. They replicate things that they love, right? So some of not my very first puppets, but some of my very first puppets were replicas of Muppet and Sesame Street characters. Couple reasons. It's a great way to practice building, because if you just build a character and you have a flaw in it, you could just say, oh, you tried to do that, or it's a character feature, right? Whereas if you try to build a Kermit and something's off, like it's just a mistake. So in that way, it can help hone your puppet building skills a little bit. But and to me, I also compared it to like a Comic-Con and doing cosplay. Like people replicate these costumes all the time, and not only do they not get in trouble, usually the gaming companies and places promote it and they love it and they share it. Why don't the Muppets do that? And I realized why. I kind of came to a conclusion on my own, but I'm sure other people have too. It's not like it's an amazing good revelation. But the reason is, like, if someone dresses up as Iron Man and goes to a Comic-Con, like, we know that's not Robert Downey Jr., right? Absolutely, we know. Whereas if you make like a perfect Kermit replica and can do a decent job at a voice, there's no reason why someone might not think that that's the real Kermit if you do a video framed with just the puppet. Hi there.
Definitely.
Kermit the Frog here. It could probably fool somebody if you have like a really, really good replica. And that's where the problem is. It would look like a Disney produced thing, right? Whereas again, that you wouldn't necessarily get that from regular cosplay. So I think that's kind of where the problem lies.
That's all across my mind, because that is the distinguishing factor. The Muppets are unique in that they are the thing.
That's only what they are. So, I mean, that's what makes puppetry so beautiful, is a puppet is only what it is. It's not dressing up as other things, really. It exists as that purpose and nothing else. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing that happened is, when the serial videos and stuff gained popularity, was exactly the same time the Whitmire was let go. So you had this, and I noticed that
perfect storm.
So it's like when people are confused about what Kermit sounds like, these other Kermits, and I think that adds to the people just say, oh, Matt Vogel's Kermit doesn't sound like Kermit, because maybe they're not even referring to Whitmire or Jim Henson, but these unofficial parody Kermits.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of that. Yeah, but the other thing is too that people don't always remember is there was the same type of uproar when Steve Whitmire initially took it. They're like, oh, he sounds nothing like Kermit. And if you put them side to side, they don't sound a whole lot alike. But I would say, though, that even though Jim Henson, without a doubt, is the Kermit, right? I think most people, at least in my generation, Steve Whitmire is their Kermit. And for no reason other than the popularity of The Christmas Carol. That's probably, I would be willing to guess that is the most watched Muppet piece of content ever created. And it's Steve Whitmire as Kermit.
I'd agree.
So that's kind of my theory on that. Though, again, Jim is the GOAT, though. Can't beat that.
I mean, it's hands up, I'm the same. I remember, Kermit was just Kermit in the 2011 film. And then going to see the Muppet Show stuff, and it didn't really strike us as, oh, that Kermit's different. I just remember the old sort of audio and sounding a bit more muffled, and that was Jim's Kermit. I never really thought, oh, it's a different actor. I thought of it like that because I was a kid.
Yeah.
Funny,
so that's why I think Matt Vogel's not going to have any problem. Yeah, there's some people that are probably giving him some beef now, but again, no different than what happened to Steve when he took it on. I think the bigger problem would be what we talked about earlier, is the AI taking over the voices or being dubbed over in some way, translated to another frequency. It's
really interesting, because what is happening with it at the minute is, which is a thought that crossed my mind, is the AI learns the voice, right? So you could feed in hundreds of hours of Jim doing Kermit on the Muppet Show. It would then learn that. If Matt Vogel were to then perform that, the AI would work as like a skin. So whatever inflections Vogel would do, it would just put the voice over that, and it can sound spot on, which is it's so conflicting because it's sort of so wrong. But it would be the closest thing.
Yeah, it's this kind of thing.
It's
like
weird.
For me, I'd love to see it as a thought experiment, but I don't think I'd like to watch all future Muppet material done that way.
I mean, think about that. If there was ever a live appearance, it would be restricted. You couldn't.
Yeah, no, that's a point. That's a good point.
Yeah, we mentioned the Kermit on eBay. That was another point. So, as you mentioned before, I think it's great when you see puppeteers making things. It's amazing, and putting them original things on eBay, and then you get stuff like the Arlo puppet, which I think is amazing. The people can have the opportunity to do that. When I was looking for my Kermit, I noticed that there was like one or two sellers. I want to say there was 700 of these like Kermit replicas.
Wow.
That they had sold, but I'm talking a lot, anywhere from 700 to like over £1,000 each. And there were, in looking at them, it was like, that's, a decent puppet. But that's the point where you think, this isn't good.
Yes. Yeah. Something's off. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's another thing I'll say too. Well, two things. First of all, as I said earlier, I'm not rough on people about, like building replicas, especially in their early days. It is very taboo, and I would not say that people should sell them at all. Okay. Now, you being a buyer, I tell people don't buy it too. You already did it. It's.
I know.
Was the past at this point? I'd say
Guilty
shame on you. Shame on you. Don't do it again. But people should not be selling replicas. That's a big, big no-no. But but one thing I'll say too is to what you're saying about prices, and I don't know the exact translations to US dollars, but that sounds like a really good puppet costs a lot of money. A lot of money. Like
I have seen.
Yes. They're I mean like 5 figures.
Yeah.
Or
these
more.
Usually,
or more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
these are usually subpar ones.
Yeah. Usually anything under $1,000. I mean, depending on your level, is usually you're not getting something great, I would say. But it usually would take multiple. Once you get into $5,000 in US dollars, you're probably starting to look at something decent at that point, and then the quality and price only goes up from there. So I think the most that I've sold one for was I think a little over $20,000 before. And again, those types of gigs though are few and far between. For me, I should say, for me. But then again, I'm also not like actively looking for that much work. I've got my day job. I take gigs that I want to do, not just because they pay good. Because sometimes there's a job that'll pay really well, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not really interested in it.
Yeah.
So then I just recommend, one of my friends or something, and they're happy for it. Like, oh, great. And again, and they do a great job, and that helps everybody. Because I don't want to spend time on something that I'm not like in love with doing.
Yeah.
So
it was a fascinating rabbit hole to go down, definitely, because coming in from, because it was just a childhood thing. I wanted a real Kermit, and it was looking and learning about the Antron fleece and all of that sort of thing. And you could see a lot of those sellers, the listings would just be repeated like this, and they were made of all sorts. Really, just I think any fabrics that they could get their hands on, and they were being sold just like a production line.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were the super serial puppet as well.
Oh yeah.
The one that guy uses. There were more of those sold than there was like actual Kermit replicas, which says to me the kids want to be like him.
Yeah, that's interesting. Think about it. You're right. I think you're really bringing out a really good point that I think Disney and the Muppets should try to nip in the bud if they can, because you're right. I think there's a whole generation that is seeing a different Kermit. And again, not any of the real performers. You're saying this toy puppet here that I'm looking in those 3 videos I've seen accumulates about 100 million views, right? And if that is kids' first exposure to Kermit, that's a problem. I think you picked up on something.
Thank you.
Really big problem that, I never, because I have
Yeah.
seen that, but I was like, I've only seen, to be honest, I don't sit here Google Muppet videos, and they show up for me, and if one looks interesting, like analyzed things like what you do, I like a lot.
You know, there'll be so many kids. I think that the Serial channel has just millions of subscribers, and that actually peaked. What the views they're getting now are lower, but it used to be a lot more. And it would be fascinating to talk to puppeteer, you know, like Matt Vogel, Eric Jacobson, or whatever, and ask them, have you seen this? Is anyone at Disney? Are they aware? You know,
honestly, they might be aware of it. I wouldn't be surprised if they're not. You know,
because it's so.
Because I wasn't aware of. I'm on YouTube all the time, and I wasn't aware of how prominent it was. Like, I'd see it once in a while on TikTok or something, but I never really noticed it on YouTube. But it is prominent on YouTube based on what you're showing me. It's
interesting because it's like fair use and copyright.
And but not only that, too, when they go to see a Muppet movie now, they're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Because they're going to expect a crude, pranking thing. And it's like, oh, it's just a lighthearted character. Like, this is babyish.
Yeah.
They might even
think it's boring.
Yeah, they'll think it's boring and babyish when it's like, no, you don't know the real Kermit. Like, yeah.
The thing is, the guy's Kermit voice isn't awful either, which makes it worse.
Yeah.
But there's also
everybody can do a Kermit. They all everyone's very proud of their Kermits. People even comment. It blows my mind. People comment on my video saying that my natural speaking voice sounds exactly like Kermit. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't even know Kermit then. Then I wonder if it's those people commenting now that you say that. Gosh, wow.
Yeah. I think the lower Register and the accent is because Jim and they're very, it was like lower, I'd say.
Yeah.
And I think Steve's was a bit higher. I think Vogel's is very low.
Yeah.
I think, which is why the difference is noticed more because from Whitmire as well.
If it went from Jim to Matt, it probably wouldn't have been as noticeable. But from Jim to Steve to Matt, you're right. Yeah, it goes down, up, down further. Yeah.
But
like I love hearing all that nerdy stuff because you see probably the nerdiest video I ever made was the peg hook theory video. Did you see that?
I saw that recently. I didn't, not the video, but you'd put it on Twitter.
Yes,
I thought,
I did.
What on earth?
So, and I really want to say something quick about that because I'm so proud. I haven't rewatched that video in a while. I rewatched it the other night and I was like, wow, I forgot how much work that I put into that video. That's probably the video that, again, it's by no means perfect, but I put the most work into that. And that was the one thing that I noticed that people never talk about is the shape of Kermit's pupils and where that came from. And I had this crazy theory. I made a whole video, interviewed a bunch of people about it, and I'm really happy with how it came out. So the video is only like 10 minutes long, the entire theory video. But then I have a second video that shows the extended interviews. And I highly recommend people watching both. Because even though you're getting a little length there, but it is so incredible. And, Fergie is incredible in that. Cameron, Disney Dan will put you in stitches because he's so funny. And then Joe Hennis at the end, when you listen to the things he's talking about, you're like, this guy needs to be the Kevin Feige of the Muppets. Disney needs to hand them over to him, let him plan out their entire MCU, the Muppet Cinematic Universe, and have him orchestrate that because he is a genius, especially when you watch that interview at the end. Like, it's just so incredible. But the only caveat I want to put on that video is I made one small mistake, which is just a little stupid mistake that I wish I didn't make is so it's these peg hooks, these butterfly peg hooks are the style of Kermit's eyes, and that's kind of where it comes from. But if you look up the patent of the peg hooks, the patent is in like the early 90s or something, which means there's no way that could have been
in 55.
The inspiration. However, the peg hook was patented in the 90s, but the punch wasn't. The punch is older because back then, even though there was no butterfly peg holes, it was a universal stamp. So it would work with the slot or the hole. There wasn't like a butterfly peg hook at the time, but it was a universal punch that would work with the slot or the peg. So
yeah,
that's the small mistake that I made. So those people that comment, "Oh, it was patented in the 90s," like, you can stop. I know. I know the feeling. Forgot to mention one little thing, you know?
Yeah.
But
I once referred to, what was it with me? I once said Kermit was South American.
A different continent, yep.
It just a continent, yeah. But yeah, I'll have to give that one a watch. Oh, another thing. So on the channel, I've done a video on, this is an obscure one, the PG Tips Monkey. Are you at all familiar with this character?
No, but let me type it in quick. Oh, Monkey.
Monkey, yeah. So PG Tips is a very famous brand of tea in the UK. We love our tea. So
this looks familiar.
So what I discovered is, in doing a video, it was made by the Jim Henson Company, or it was one of the divisions anyway. But he's like a big childhood thing. The PG Tips Monkey was always on the TV advertising tea for as long as I can remember. So I've done a video on him, and I'm like, oh, of course, Jim Henson Company built the monkey.
Really? Yeah. Interesting. So not to say that, good puppets can't be simple, but he's very simple
like sock
looking,
puppety, isn't he?
Yeah, and looks like he's crocheted or something, which is, I don't see them working in that type of medium very often. So it's interesting.
But there's him and Flat Eric. Just want to throw these names. Have you heard of Flat Eric before?
No, I don't think so.
So he is it's probably only my videos that will pop up. So he was originally, I think, a French character who I looked into, also made by Jim Henson Company.
Really?
And he was, I believe, in the 90s in adverts for Levi's jeans.
This yellow monkey kind of looking like that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I don't know what he is. I've got no idea.
Oh, wow. Flat Eric.
But those were, apart from the Muppets, those two were just characters that I had plushes of and stuck out was in my childhood, sort of thing. So
that's awesome.
Obviously, very, very British niche things.
Yes, yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I gotta look into this stuff. I gotta, I got into puppetry relatively late, so I'm still learning a lot about.
I was late.
Pop culture puppetry things, especially pop culture puppetry from other cultures. I really don't know it all. So
I always think I'm putting videos out as well, because the audience, I automatically think, being British, that they'll know. But obviously, I think about 80% of my audience is in America.
Oh,
apparently,
really?
According to statistics. I was like, wow. So they might not have a clue what I'm talking about. So I'll try and explain things.
I love it. Yeah, yours is the first thing that came up on Flat Eric, and I can't wait to watch it.
Wow. I noticed that's another thing I found funny when we did the sponsorship, how you'd clarified the pronunciation of your name.
Oh, yeah.
It's Kreutinger. And then I watched a video, a different one of the guys, and he goes, sponsored by Adam Kreutinger. And I'm like,
oh, I know.
I can't remember which one it was.
I know. The funniest thing is one of my dear friends, Disney Dan. You're familiar with Disney Dan?
Yes. It very well might have been him.
Probably was him. And I'm like, we're such good friends, and he's never gotten my name right once. And not even on an accident, no matter how many times. And again, I don't care that much about it, which is why I changed my name of my I used to just be my name. It wasn't until about, at this point now, almost 2 years ago, I think, that I changed it to Puppet Nerd, just because it's easier for people to remember. And I didn't want it to be about me. I really wanted to make it more about the community and a community channel. And all I'm really trying to do is promote puppetry. The more people doing puppetry, the more puppetry work there'll be, the more people that'll be buying puppets from people. I just think it'll create this whole ecosystem and of just promoting puppetry. So I don't think you can do wrong. I don't think you can. Bit of
happiness in it.
Yes.
Spreading that joy.
The puppetry joy. That's right.
It's funny because in the comments of a video recently, I'm from the UK, but I'm from the north of the UK. But a northeast accent is very, very strange. But people have commented before. A guy went, "Oh, why are you saying all of the words wrong?" And I looked at it for a bit, and I thought, well, maybe it's a kid or something. I'll try and explain. Like, I have an accent. I'm from the north of England, and he didn't get it. He went, "No, I realise that, but you're not talking right." And I'm like, "No, I'm saying the words, but I'm here. We say things differently to like where you are." He wasn't getting it.
Yeah.
And it was but I usually just find it hilarious. It's yeah. But if we've managed to have this conversation and you're getting it, then I'm good.
I'm getting it. Yeah. So, something about the way you pronounce the word. Say book again.
Book.
Book. Yes.
Book.
That's a couple of in the beginning when you were saying it, I was like, what is it? Oh, he's saying book. Okay. Got it.
It's weird because how would you pronounce a double O? Yeah.
Boo. Yeah. Well, that's my whole thing with the whole, GIF or GIF thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, well, how do you say it?
GIF.
GIF. That's what I say too.
Isn't with a G. Yeah.
GIF. And I would say most people that I know call it GIF. And then I spell out the word gift.
Oh, wow.
I say, how do you pronounce this word? They say gift. And then I take off the T and say, now how do you pronounce it?
Yeah.
GIF, right? It's got to be GIF. It's not GIF. It's GIF. So
the English language is very unintuitive, and then I noticed.
Oh yes.
It's funny how the Americans were. We don't need that letter, and they've altered some of them. And changed some of them. It's always It's always something. So thanks for watching, everyone. I've really enjoyed having a chat with Adam tonight tonight for me, about Muppets and puppets and all that lovely stuff. So Adam, where can everyone find you on the interwebs? Thanks so much for having me. Puppet Nerd is my channel, and Adam Kreutinger is my handle on most other places. If you're really interested in joining a puppetry community, if you're on Facebook, the Facebook Puppet Nerd group has a really great community with a lot of helpful people. If you want to learn how to puppeteer or how to make puppets, there's a lot of good, talented people there. And if you want to order your own puppet, a lot of puppet builders are there too that could probably help you out. So thanks a lot. Well, then, so from the both of us, thanks for watching, and we should see you around next time. Yeah, we'll see you next time.